Okay, I think we are live. As far as I could tell, we're live. Okay, so I'm Moshe, and I'm coming to you from Israel in the Galilee. You may have heard of the Galilee in the Bible. And today is, I think, the 4th of October. Tell me in a second. Yeah, and it's a Shabbat, and it's 7:45 in the morning. And our weather today, we're at 74, high of 92. That's a little unpleasant. Tomorrow, we go to a high of 89, Monday 84, then 83, 82. And at the end of the week, the highs in the high 70s. And oh man, that'll be nice. And then pretty soon I'll be coming here eating hot soup in a cup. Uh, Gosh, I wish they had real soup in Israel. My wife makes real soup, but you can't buy a can of soup. You know, you go to the supermarkets in America and you got organic cans of soup, non organic. You got cans of soup that are thick, thin. You got it with meat, without meat. You got this, you got that. You got it with, all kinds of stuff. And do we have that in Israel? No. They stopped selling cans of soup. They sell us the lousy, crappy powder. And you got to put the powder in hot water. And they say, oh, they use natural ingredients. Yeah, natural garbage ingredient. Life here is hard. It's hard where you are, but you don't have the terrorism and the attacks for 2 years, do you? No. You got it bad, I know, but not as bad as we got it. Okay. Uh, and Oh, it's nice when it stops getting hot, cold. So you have 7 or so uh, months of weather. Well, you might catch 4 or 5, maybe sometimes more. About 5 months of good weather in Israel. 7 months of crap weather. It's punishment. I know it is. I don't believe the weather was this way when Yeshua was on earth. I've read it and I don't see it. I don't ever hear an instance of snow, and they're walking around in sandals. And you try walking around here in sandals in the winter and see how your feet feel. It doesn't add up. The weather we got and the weather they got. I don't know. Jerusalem with waist-high snow. I don't get any of that out of the scriptures. Do you? No. I mean, if it was snowing, it would say it, right? So I don't think they had this kind of weather. So Trump created chaos in Israel last night. He's playing up to Hamas and Qatar. When Netanyahu went to see Trump a few days ago, Qatar was in the meeting with Netanyahu and Trump. And Qatar hates our living guts. Qatar would feed us into ovens alive. Qatar is every much an enemy to us as Hamas, except they got no guts to pick up a gun and start shooting us. That's the only difference. And we got a complete Satan bought moron running the country named Netanyahu, a complete jackass. So I'm going to go through what happened, but it is rather complicated and it's very serious. So it's not just a quick bullet I can throw at you. It's really serious and complicated. They're talking about making a $1 coin in America with Trump on it. Probably because of his president of peace nonsense. And he wants to get a Nobel Prize, I think. Obama had one, he must win. So, a couple of points is I think Trump is actually going to do a stimulus package based on the revenue from the tariffs to make the people of America think it's working. It's not. It's killing America. I think something like 25 hospitals closed this year so far in America. And now that's not a comforting figure. Okay. It's not. All right. Let me go in the live stream and then we'll cover all these points. There was more drones from Russia flying into NATO countries that closed the airport. It's a lot of stuff going on. A lot of stuff. And Trump is playing the dunce of the White House, the idiot of the White House, big time. He's not just with Israel, but with Iran and with Russia and Ukraine and NATO and with the American people and the bad economy and the economy getting worse and layoffs getting worse and worse and worse. And his stimulus package that he talked about in the last couple of days in October was ranging between $1,000 and $2,000 a head. Now, there's talk of them not sending it to people that have a high income. I don't know. But I would think that everybody getting Social Security, disability, or retirement is going to get it. Okay. There's other people bandying figures around that are different, but it's probably going to be the $1,000 to $2,000 a head of people getting disability or Social Security, possibly another type of welfare, but I don't know if they're going to bother doing that. And it'll be distributed to them the same way the Social Security is. This is Trump apparently was holding off on this to try to save Christmas instead of being the Grinch. I'm rather certain of that. Not only is he trying to make the homeowner comfortable and be able to buy stuff for their family, is also going to, and this is a big part of it, at least half of it, save the retailers. Now, if he distributed the money in August or July, people wouldn't use it for Christmas. Now, if he distributes the money next week, they're not going to use it for Christmas. Okay? So he might distribute the money before Thanksgiving next month. He doesn't care if the people don't have money to go have a Halloween party. That's not a big deal. Okay? People could have a Halloween party without the money. They buy some of that candy corn that looks kind of red, triangular around round, triangle shaped, and other junk, and they probably have some stuff left over from previous years, like skeletons and pumpkins and all this idiot stuff, and they could dress up and do the Halloween garbage. They don't need money for that. Now, Christmas is another story because the people would want to have a Christmas dinner, and they would want to be able to buy presents for their family, and that requires money. They don't want to have the tree and the kids get a pair of socks or new underwear for Christmas. Go find a young kid, 14, that wants underwear or sneakers or a shirt or something for Christmas. You don't find that. Okay. So Trump, I thought I heard a siren in the distance, but I don't think I did. So Trump is trying to save Christmas, and that's the Grinch trying to save Christmas because he caused this economic collapse with this tariff crap. So if I'm going to guess, he means it, he's going to do it, and it's probably not going to go out until maybe just before Thanksgiving, because when is the big Christmas sales? They call it, what, Black Friday, which is the Friday after the Thursday of Thanksgiving, right? So he might want the people to have it then, or he might drag it out to, December 5th or 10th, but I don't think so. I think he wants the people to have plenty of time to shop and play the sales and stuff like that. As long as he does it around Thanksgiving, the people are going to be Christmas oriented. If he does it now, no. The people will blow it and they'll still be broke on Thanksgiving and they'll be depressed. So he wants the people to have a pleasant Thanksgiving. That's God's day, not our God's day, his God's day. Okay. So let me look at a calendar real quick, see if I get some insights. So this is October, and then I'm in, I think, November, and then I would be in December. And Christmas is the 25th on a Thursday, but let's see about Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving is falling, well, isn't Thanksgiving the fourth Thursday? So that would make it the 27th. Let me check, because I don't know much about church holidays. That's not a biblical holiday. If you go around Israel and ask people if they know what Thanksgiving is, a lot of them won't know what you're talking about, or they may have heard about it and they don't know much about it. Yeah, it's the 27th. Okay, so this is, I would say, definitely when Trump is going to do give the people the stimulus check, because that's so close to Christmas. So he would probably have the money come into their bank accounts around the 24th, 25th, something like that. The banks will be the banks will be open up until the 26th. So I don't think he's going to do it like on the 21st. I think he would try to have the money go out to some people on Monday, some on Tuesday, and maybe even on Thursday. And the banks are generally going to open on the 29th. So he could also give the money out on the 29th. I don't think he will. I think he wants the people to have the money by the 29th because they got these massive sales on Black Friday, and he wants the people in there, and he wants to stimulate the economy for the retailers, because if the retailers fold, it makes life pretty dismal in America. You go to the mall and 65% of the stores are closed, you're going to pretty much stop going to the mall. Then 75, 85%, and then the mall folds. So he needs to bring that back online. So I think he might go over 2,000 persons. No, I don't think so. I don't think so. It's too much. Now the people aren't going to buy. If he gave them, let's say, $5,000, they're going to down payment a car, take a vacation. They're going to do more than buy Christmas gifts, 10, 15% of the people will pay their bills off. That's it. Most will just stay in debt. I think Israelis are worse than Americans when it comes to staying in debt. Okay. Let me go into our live stream and check it out. Make sure we got everything working. Let me go into our live stream and check it out. Make sure we got everything working. Looks like we're good. Let me go into our live stream and okay, I got moderators, and I'm going to put a really fast post up. And that's going to take seconds, really. This thing that Trump did is big. I mean, it's going to take quite a while to really explain it to you. You guys don't live in Israel, you're not going to really understand everything. But I will explain everything to you. If you follow the churchianity figures, the people that speak in the churches, and they happen to be in Israel, you're getting a very watered down version of everything, because they are not going to offend the church and the church people and the government of the United States. They're not going to ever do that. I will, as you'll see today. I will show you what Trump did, and how what Trump did is the same mindset, going back to Henry Kissinger, with all the presidents, including Obama and Biden, their same policies, basically. And we're going to discuss what Israel's going to do about it. Netanyahu is just going to do whatever Trump wants. Yes, sir, Mr. Trump. I do what you want, sir. That's Netanyahu. He's the village idiot, but he's corrupt, and unfortunately, a lot of Israelis like the corruption, so they vote for this mental midget. And he's in so much trouble now with criminal cases. He doesn't know what to do. He doesn't know what to do anymore. Okay, being a Bible-believing site, Old and New Testament, I'm going to do some praise. How about that? You don't hear that in other places. You hear people talk about, uh, what would you do? What does he do? His return, and wave bye bye, and we go up and all. But they don't ever do praise, do they? How about that? There is no God like Jehovah. 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 There is no Messiah like Yeshua. 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 By the way, before I start, I would like you guys, if you are aware of a scripture, which me and all the people that are basically in this group here don't know of, that shows us that before the last day, people in the church are going to be raptured up to heaven while Israel goes through tribulation and gets the head cut off if they don't take the mark of the beast, and they go to the lake of fire forever. If they do take the mark of the beast, if you have a scripture that clearly depicts people getting left behind, specifically Israelis, I'd really like to hear it, because we've been looking for decades to find it. Deliver you from the wrath to come is so far away from making a case for a rapture, it's not even funny. And remember what Yeshua said is that he would reign over the nations with a rod of iron. There's no scripture that says Yeshua is going to reign over the Jews or the Israelites with a rod of iron along with the church. There's no scripture. Now, I can give you 4 scriptures that show there is no left behind rapture, and the rapture occurs at the last day. And the last day means there's no more days. What do you think it means? That means it's after the millennium. That's John 6:39, John 6:40, John 6:44, and John 6:54. Will Yeshua deliver the believers from the wrath to come? Absolutely. But why do you assume that means take them up to heaven? No basis. See, you never hear this from the churchianity preachers that sell you books, speaking tours, conferences, go to your church and talk. They never tell you this because they just want to get as much money from everybody as they can. They don't want to take sides. So they teach such a watered down, simplistic, stupid gospel. It's unbelievable. Yet people buy into it. If I was selling books, DVDs, paid seats in a prophecy conference, or cabins on a cruise ship, or seats on an airplane to take a tour of Israel and make profit off it, am I making merchandise out of God's people? There's things you could do. Um, but I don't think that's one of them. Okay. So Hamas agreed to 7 out of the 21 points of Netanyahu's peace plan. Okay? They publicly stated to Arab media that they have no intention of disarming, leaving Gaza, or even having nothing to do with the governance of Gaza in the future. Okay? Did Trump agree to this? To be fair, no. Trump said that they want to negotiate. And he says, I think they're close enough that I'm going to negotiate with them. And then he told Netanyahu to stop bombing them. And the idiot Netanyahu stopped bombing them. Now, I said before this happened several days ago that Hamas is going to try to do anything to get into negotiations and then say they're not negotiating while the war is going on because that's putting us under duress and pressure. Now, Iran's pulled that on Trump and got away with it, and now Hamas is pulling it on Trump and apparently getting away with it. And this is rather consistent with Henry Kissinger's policy, which was to never let Israel win a war. Satanic. Okay? They also made it out that they didn't let the Arab states win a war either. In other words, they didn't get to conquer Israel. But Israel didn't get to conquer them. Now, we're in the war of recompenses. Some of you don't even know it exists, but it's in the Bible in Isaiah 34, verse 8. Plain as day. And just because your pastor doesn't want you to know this, don't blame me. And if you're going to reject me, just be advised you're not really rejecting me, you're rejecting the scripture. And I will make that point by reading it to you. And then if you wish to reject the knowledge, remember Yeshua said he'll reject you. So we go to Isaiah chapter 34, and this is unfulfilled prophecy, verse 8. For it is the day of the Lord's vengeance. It is the day of the Lord's vengeance and the year of recompenses. Now, the word for year is poorly translated. It's a time period for the Lord to fulfill his work or his promise or his prophecy. So you don't know the day or the hour here. For the controversy of Zion. Church doesn't want you to know that. The word for controversy is not really correctly translated. The Strong's number is 7379, Reiv. It could, well, this thing moved. Let me get it. Let's see what Strong's, who's not the perfect translator, so to speak, but he's better than the others usually. He calls it a pit. Why? Oh, a contest. Adversary. Contend. Controversy. If you could say it's a contest, which is his first choice, because the nations are trying to show that they have Satan who's stronger than Jehovah and Yeshua, and they're going to dominate and overrule. Ha ha ha. They don't understand Hosea 6, 1 and 2. Now, if you don't understand Hosea 6, 1 and 2, which the churches never seem to teach, I'm just telling you they don't teach it as a fact. If I tell you why they don't teach it, you'll correctly think of me as speculating on that. But the fact that they don't teach it is a hard fact. Okay, Hosea 6, 1 and 2. Come and let us return unto Jehovah. So is that the church returning to Jehovah? It's Israel, it's not the church. How could the church be the church and then return to Jehovah? A little silly, right? Okay. Come and let us return unto Jehovah, for he hath torn, he will heal us. He hath smitten. Let me just go. He had smitten and he will bind us up, bandage us up, heal us up, After 2 days, now we're smart enough to know that Israel's punishment for killing the Messiah was not 48 hours or 2 days. Peter opens this up by telling us 1,000 years is like a day unto the Lord. So after 2 days would be interpreted 2,000 years. But when the Lord phrases it like that, as compared to go to Babylon for 70 years, go to Babylon years means 70 biblical calendar years, 12 months, 3 days a month, right? Okay? 360 years. That's the Bible year. But when it says 2 days and we're interpreting it to mean 2,000 years, it's a soft 2,000 years. In other words, I would say it's approximately 2,000 years. It need not necessarily be 2,000 years on the head. Maybe it will be, but again, maybe it doesn't have to be. That's me talking as an interpreting, to interpret. After 2 days will he revive us. Now, the word for revive is kaya, bring to life. And that's in, when you see him, you will be like him. 1 John 3, 2, John 6, 40, Zechariah 12, 10, Revelation 1, 7, Matthew 24, 30. They don't ever teach you that there's two events. One is the appearing of the Son of Man in the clouds, and the other is him returning to earth with New Jerusalem, and they don't ever want to teach you that, okay? But that was the great hope of the apostles, because when he appears in the clouds and you see him, you will become like him if you're a believer and have the Holy Spirit. And those are the scriptures that, but I'm not here to do a massive Bible study on this. Okay, so it says he will revive us. In the third day, that would be the millennium, he will raise us up and we shall live in his sight. Well, the raise up is not exactly the rapture word at all. If you check it out, it's 6966. And Strong interprets that word into English. Let me get there. Abide, be clearer, confirm, continue, decree. Basically, he's in New Jerusalem enthroned, along with the glory God of Israel, and you're there too. And to raise us up is, you're not busted out and broken down anymore, and we shall live in his sight. And that's not talking about going to the third heaven with Jehovah. Okay? So you have to understand Israel's punishment for killing the Messiah doesn't go for perpetuity. This expresses the limitations, and it's been about 2,000 years, because when did they kill Yeshua? 2000, the year 30 or 33 or something like that. Okay. Right? All right. So we're in recompenses. Okay. Now, the other thing you need to know, because none of this is going to make sense to you unless I show you the stuff that the churches never teach, is you got to, and it's a hard fact, they never teach it, or maybe 2% of them do, or something like that. I think we go to Isaiah 63 verse 4 for this. For the day of vengeance is in my heart. That's, again, you find that in Zechariah 12, which is Jacob's trouble, not Gog and Magog. And the year of my redeemed is come. So here the day of vengeance is associated with the year of redemption, which is the Shanat. It's the period of redemption. It's not a literal 12 months, okay? And the Isaiah 34 verse 8 has the day of vengeance associated with the year of recompenses. So it is the day of the Lord's vengeance, and the Shanat, which really doesn't mean year, the period of time of recompenses for the controversy of Zion. Okay. Now, we do see which actually made it into the New Testament in part only, and that's found in Isaiah 61. We could start right around the beginning of the chapter. The Spirit of Jehovah Elohim is upon me, because Jehovah hath anointed me. Now, the word for anointed is Mashiach, because that's what the word Messiah really means. And that's the same word as Christ and Christos. How about that? Well, the Christ and Christos are different languages, but the underlying would be Mashiach. Because the Lord hath anointed me to preach good tidings unto the meek. He hath sent me to bind up the brokenhearted, to proclaim liberty to the captives, and the opening of the to them that are bound. And the captives in the prison that are bound is the dry place where the dry bones in Ezekiel 37 that get resurrected to life and come to Israel. They're the Israelites. Okay? Read it. I mean, don't try to make it into the church. It's absurd. It's an actual resurrection from the dead. Again, nothing about going up to heaven. Then it goes on to verse 2, to proclaim the acceptable year of Jehovah. That would be Shanat, and acceptable, pleasing, pleasant. So that would be the redemption year. And the day of vengeance of our Elohim, to comfort all that mourn. And you could read about the mourning in Revelation 1:7 and Zechariah 12:10, 11, 12, and 13. I mean, it's plain as day. It's right there. To appoint unto them that mourn in Zion, so it's referencing Israel, to give unto them beauty for ashes, the oil of joy for mourning, the garment of praise for the spirit of heaviness, that they might be called trees of righteousness, the planting of Jehovah, that he might be glorified. Now, why does he call you trees of righteousness? I don't think I ever taught this before. Why? Who were the two olive trees? The two witnesses be Moses, because Moses died, and it's elected unto man to die only once. So God doesn't break the scriptures. The church teaches you he does, but he doesn't. So it's definitely not Moses. Did Moses appear in the transformation? Yes, with Elijah, but that doesn't mean they're the two witnesses, okay? All right. Enoch and Elijah were on earth, and they both never died yet. So it's elected or appointed unto man to die only once, so they've got to die. So they come back. It's not that difficult. Trees. So you're in Zechariah 4, talking about the two witnesses, and it talks about them being the olive trees and the candlestick. Okay. What you see there is a candelabra with 7 candlesticks. It's called a menorah. One of such was found in the temple. Okay. Now, the trees, the olive trees, have the oil flowing out of them into a golden pipe, which brings it into the candlestick, a big bowl, and it gets distributed to all the candelabra. Keep it burning. Okay, so the two witnesses are the olive trees and the candlestick. When you read Revelation, like chapter 2 and 3, the candlesticks are what's called the churches, or the congregations, the called out from among would be more accurate. Okay? So there, let's just say the churches, so everybody understands what I'm talking about, because that's the vernacular of the people speaking English today, although it's not what it says in the underlying language. But moving along. So the candlesticks represent the churches, and the olive oil represents the anointing. And the source of the olive oil is the trees, which are the two witnesses. So what's going on is the two witnesses, Elijah and Enoch, are going to bring the anointing into the people, the believers, not just the Israelites, all the believers, non-Israelite, Israelite, bring the anointing into them. And that's why he's calling them trees of righteousness, because they're going to become righteous. Okay? And he calls them trees because the two olive trees are bringing it in. And they're going to, why else would he call them trees? Because they're going to bear good fruit like an olive tree. You got a better explanation? I'm all ears, but that's the explanation, I believe. Okay. To the Jews, they always have believed for many years that Elijah will come and teach them the Torah. And he will. Probably start with the Messiah. Okay, so why are we in recompenses? Because we're whooping Hezbollah, but we whooped Hezbollah, but on the other hand, they're still there in Lebanon. We whooped Hamas, but on the other hand, they're still there in Gaza. Something happened in Syria. We didn't really whoop Bashar Assad, but he pulled out of town, and then we bombed and blew up all the stuff he had left. Military bases, missiles, radar, boats, and all kinds of stuff. Artillery, all sorts of stuff. And there's still people there that hate us in Syria. Iraq we've attacked, but they just scared of us right now, and they're doing nothing. They're just holed up. So they're still there. And we fought with Iran, and Iran, while they're busted up, they're still there. And we fought with the Houthis, and while they're busted up, they're still there. So none of these entities is really hurting Israel to any great extent. They can't do anything to Israel very much. So why is this going on? Why are they still there? Because when we transition to the day of vengeance and then into the year of recompenses, Israel is going to get rid of these people and get the land back, all the land back. And then when we have the next great exodus, the people, which will shortly follow, the people will have land to come to. Israel's like the size of Rhode Island. Nobody knows how many people are going to come here in the next great exodus, but you could tell me 100 million, and I'll just sit there and say, I don't know. You could tell me 3 million. I'll tell you, I don't know. But it's going to be big. That I would guess at. So that's being left for the two witnesses to take care of it, which you could read about in Zechariah 12:6. They burn the enemies up on the right hand and the left. They lay a siege to Israel. The siege is in effect started already. So the deliverance of Israel is going to have to come in a way that everybody knows Jehovah did it. Not that Netanyahu did it, not that Trump did it, not that the Israeli Defense Forces did it, not that the F-35s did it. It has to come that Jehovah did it. That's the way it's going to work, period. It's not going to come any other way. Now it looks like the IDF did it, but it was really the Lord that did it, but they think it's the IDF. Okay? It's the Lord. It's always the Lord. Remember Yeshua said, you could do nothing without me? Take that seriously, okay? This is true. So, America's following the doctrine of Henry Kissinger. Nobody wins. Israel doesn't win. You can't let Israel win. Israel's not claiming any land back. Not getting any more land. Nothing. Israel cannot move into Gaza. Nothing. So, Trump is actually behaving like Trump is playing into it. Now, he said initially they have until Monday. He said till the end of the week. In America, the last day of the week is Sunday, I believe. So that would mean, 11:59 p.m. Sunday it's over, or more practical terms, Monday morning in America. And Hamas said they agreed to 7 points. They did say they were going to give all the hostages back at onset, but they're not leaving Gaza. They're not disarming. And they're not going to step aside and have nothing to do with the governance of Gaza. That's not what Trump gave them. That's not the deal. That's light years away from the deal, yet Trump is taking it, or he's acting like he is. He didn't say he accepts the deal. He said they really want to negotiate, so I'm negotiating directly as well as indirectly, which makes no sense to me. And I don't think he's negotiating directly, because to the Muslims, Trump is an infidel, a dog, or a monkey, an unclean beast. like the Jews, same thing. I will admit that they have a special place in their hatred for Jews, but they view Trump as an infidel, as a dog too, so they don't want to negotiate with him. Pretty stupid, but that's how they are. Okay, so Trump is even more stupid to play in with this. But you see, Trump is scared to death of war. Certain people, you might guess who they are demon to Trump and the whole White House and the Pentagon and the whole lot of them over and over and over again. So they don't have their little demonic friends to ask, what to do and get advice from. So he's on his own, and on his own, he behaves like an idiot. Look what he just did. He played into a sucker's trap. But he's created chaos in Israel. So he then turns around and tells Netanyahu, you have to immediately stop bombing Gaza. Well, he said it, and Netanyahu didn't stop. He kept bombing Gaza more so. I don't know this for a fact, but I'm assumptive that Trump called Netanyahu up on the phone and said, cut it out. I think we got a peace deal here. Stop it. Let's run it out. See what we got. If we got a peace deal and you're going to get 20 hostages back alive, it's worth it. Just stand it for a few days. So Netanyahu said yes. Now, Smotrich and Ben-Gvir, Bezalel Smotrich and Ben-Gvir, the two right-wing leaders that have grown in strength quite a bit, are ready to go in and so this is just nuts. So Bezalel and Smotrich may call for a vote of no confidence and throw Trump out of office. And I have a feeling this may happen. I'd say a high probability. Now, they'll probably wait until Monday. Today's Saturday already. I mean, what's the big deal? They don't work on Saturday. It's in Israel. So they'll go back to work Sunday. And they're not going to immediately say, oh, well, no vote, no confidence. They'll start warning Trump. And then I would say probably by midweek or the end of the week, they may actually start doing a vote of no confidence. It may actually happen. But it's not going to be that. It's not going to be Monday or Sunday, I doubt. I doubt it would. So they're going to give Netanyahu a couple of chances, and Netanyahu is now going to have to go to Trump and say, oh, they're lying, they're just buying time, and you're playing into it, and you're messing up everything. We got to keep bombing them. And Trump will go, blah, 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 blah. You're out of the deal, I'm Trump, and Netanyahu's going to have to stand up to him and say, Donald, you're a jerk. Come on, what are you doing? They want to make the deal. Don't buy into this with them. Tell them, okay, you can't run Gaza, you can't keep your weapons, and you got to leave. Do you accept this or not? Yes or no? Yes or no? Tell them, And they'll say no, because they've already been telling the Muslim media they're not going to do that. So there's no peace deal. And go back and bomb them. Now, from Trump's point of view, he's going to say, well, stalling the war for 2, 3, 4 days isn't going to make a hill of beans difference, And he's making, what he doesn't know is he's making himself look like the bigger dunce cap wearing village idiot by even letting Hamas do this to him for a day. Because they see him as a moron. And morons don't command respect. Okay? So Israel is right now in chaos. They're very confused. They don't know what's going on. They know that Hamas is not going to say, here's your 20 hostages, Israel, Shabbat Shalom, see you around the campus, and then say, we're leaving our weapons behind, we're showing up at the Rafah crossing, and we're going to be searched and processed, and we're leaving Gaza for good. And America's going to provide the security, and you people will be fine. Well, that's just absolutely not happening. Keeping them alive and well with weapons in Gaza means in as little as 2 weeks we could be having a war again. I think it was Thursday or Friday they shot 5 rockets at us at Ashkelon. So I mean, what is this? This is a moron's game, you know? I'm not even getting into that they want Israel's full withdrawal, and they don't want Israel to have a buffer zone and keep troops there and this, and they don't want international troops monitoring it and all this stuff. I mean, it's stupid. That's what's going on. And it's scary how stupid Trump is. And we know that America is going to turn against Israel from the prophecies in Jeremiah 50:51. We know that, but we don't know when and exactly how. So this could be it, and maybe it's not it. I don't know. I mean, is there a chance that Trump sees through the Tuesday or Wednesday and says, Netanyahu, they were wasting time to blow him up? I tried. I wanted to get your hostages back. I wanted a peace deal, but they're just lunatics. They want to die. They don't want to have peace. So kill them. That's, a likely possibility too. But the fact that Trump turned like this is pretty bad. Hamas is going home with Greta. No, I wish it was, but it's not the case. I don't think so. I'm not having anybody else tell me the internet is terrible. So I don't know why you're the only one saying that. Let me see if I'm getting any badness on this. Check it out. Until we got everything working. Looks like we're good. We go into our live feed. Warning Trump, and then I would say probably by midweek or the end of the week they may actually start doing a vote of no confidence. It may actually happen, but it's not going to be that. It's not going to be Monday or Sunday. I doubt. Would. I don't think it's that bad. It has a little bit of an issue, but not much. Okay, so let's go through what else is going on. More drones appeared in Munich, Germany by the airport. Obviously, there were Russian drones that were unidentified. They had to close the Munich airport, and Poland had them appearing at an airport in Poland also yesterday. So Russia is not stopping this nonsense. Okay, and it's getting under the skin in a big way to the NATO countries. They're not very pleased with this at all. Did Trump just give himself new powers in America? Yes. On October 2nd, today's the 4th, amidst a government shutdown, Trump issued a declaration classifying drug cartels, including those in Venezuela and Mexico, as engaging in a non-international armed conflict against the United States of America. This move framed as a counter narcotics escalation effectively grants the executive branch, Trump, sweeping wartime authority under existing laws like the authorization of use of military force, argue with unilateral expands, blah, blah, blah. So he gave himself basically war powers by doing this. So Trump is getting megalomaniac on everybody, okay? So he's got a lot. So he's also been, by doing this, he bypasses any checks and balances from Congress. The existing government shutdown amplifies concern, but we're not really sure if that's really going to cause a problem. So this is something weird. Now, we don't know what Trump's going to do with these powers, but we know Trump has them. And I don't know how many people really know that Trump got himself these powers the other day. I don't think mainstream media dealt with it, or they didn't spell it out. I don't know, but I'd be worried if I were you. Now, we got rid of the last flotilla boat last night. I believe it got towed to Ashdod, and the people going to Ashdod. There's another flotilla they're trying to launch now. They're going to, of 9 boats, and I believe it already launched. I don't know from where, but as it develops, we'll get all the details. A 9-boat flotilla coming. And remember that we found out that there was no humanitarian aid for Gaza in these boats. It was a lie, period. Okay? Ireland is ready to soften the planned sanctions on Israel under pressure from businesses. That's a change. And we're getting a few changes. You know, these are not the days of Israel suffering. Now, the church believes it is because they believe Israel's going into a tribulation and they're going up into heaven. So it conveniently means they don't give a hoot about Israel. And they really don't. Right-wing activists have set up sukkahs, that's the tent, like in Feast of Tabernacles tent, on the border with Gaza, uh, some sort of a method about spending the holidays on the border of Gaza, which is nothing to do with the Feast of Tabernacles, but they seem to be pushing this like that, and I have there's, as far as I know, no biblical basis for this at all, but they're doing it. Okay. The United States military struck another narco trafficking boat off of Venezuela, well, in the Caribbean. It's saying it's a Venezuela narco boat, and they got the boat and they killed 4 people. But that happened on yesterday, Friday, in the morning, Friday. Venezuela's popping a cork because American F-35s were flying about 25 miles off the coast of uh, Venezuela. It was international airspace and international water, but Venezuela's busting a gut over that. They did not fly over the land of Venezuela like some people were implying on the internet. Russian warships have aimed their weapons and sailed on collision courses and jammed Danish naval vessels. This took place in the Danish Straits recently. Reuters carried the story, and this is going to cause more trouble for Russia with NATO. So the drones flying over military bases, airports, doing this, the Danish, there's definitely a high risk of a war breaking out against Russia, but we don't know. Ukraine took out another oil refinery well inside Russia last night or yesterday afternoon. This is troubling to me. Russian military flights are continuing to arrive in Iran nonstop. So what is Russia bringing to Iran? I don't know. Nobody's telling us. Do I think Trump and Netanyahu know? Yes, I think they know, but they're not telling us. Missiles, personnel, both. I don't know. Will it come out? Well, let me see if I can find out. Hang on, hang on. It's entirely possible Russia's going over there picking up drones and missiles to bring back to use in Ukraine. I have to tell you that's a possibility. Let me see if we can find any information on that. I'm using my AI thing to search the web. It's much faster. Okay, I got my results. There's been multiple reports of nonstop Russian military cargo flights into Iran in late September and early October. Okay, that's what I said basically. Primarily using heavy transport aircraft, the IL-76 and the AN-124. They originate from Russia air bases, also from Belarus bases and Siberia, and they land directly into Tehran or other Iranian bases like Shiraz. Okay. They were bypassing international hubs to evade scrutiny. Available trackers and open source intelligence, which is abbreviated OSINT, open source intelligence, have documented at least 5 to 7 such flights since September 17th, with a surge on October 2nd to 3rd, 2 IL-76 landing in Tehran. That's a surge. All right. Reported cargo, primarily military hardware. Oh, golly gee, what a great revelation. Let's see if we get anything deeper than that. Well, this is what we're pretty sure happened. Iran got some fighter jets from Russia. MiG-29, not very advanced fighters. They're not talking about how many they got, but they're saying they got some MiG-29s from Russia. So this could be weapons for them and or parts for them. one of these jets was seen patrolling around the Tehran city in Iran on September 29, a few days ago. Then we got to deal with Su-35s and Su-30s, which are more advanced planes, quite a bit. And they're saying there was ongoing deliveries of Sukhoi Su-35 jets with parts. An AN-124 heavy cargo plane departed from Russia from Irkutsk, I can't pronounce it, for Iran around September 28, capable of hauling full airframes or large assemblies of planes. Okay. Then we're thinking that they might also be bringing air defense systems, S-400s, which don't stop F-35s. Then they're, the standard, they could be missiles, drones, bullets, guns, who knows what else. So it's not really highly specific what they brought, but it's generally thought that it was war equipment, and the general tone in the world is Iran's prepping for war. There's not any doubt about that, really.
Yeah, no one's really debating it anymore. Flights like those, heavy Il-76s, and 124s straight from Siberian bases.
It's that idiot thing talking to me. I don't need that. Okay. So we covered what Trump did when he got stupid against Israel. We'll see how that finishes. For a while, Trump did not respond to Israel did not respond to Trump's request. I imagine Trump called Netanyahu up and screamed at him. I think it was so stupid. Netanyahu probably didn't believe it. It was that stupid. Okay, gold. It's getting interesting. Gold broke 3,900 already. So yesterday, the high was 39.16, and a little while ago, a few hours ago, it was trading at 39.06, $3,906. So $4,000 gold, just anything happens, you're at 4,000, and it's going to climb. depending on how bad things get in the world, I don't know how it's going to get through to 5,000, but things get bad, it's going to go probably right to 7,000. I can't call how much it's going to go to, but it's going. So remember, the Hamas did not say yes to Trump's plan. They said they would go give the hostages back, but they only agreed to 7 points. So they want Israel completely out, and they want to stay in Gaza with their weapons and run Gaza, which I think even Trump isn't going to put up with. But Qatar wants that so they could rebuild, get money from Qatar, and kill more Jews. Qatar to Israel is the same as Hitler, okay? They are like Hamas. Trump gets friendly with them. They gave him a $400 million jet. Trump is an egomaniac, and that will be his demise. Pride cometh before a fall, and Trump's got a lot of pride right now, and Trumpty Dumpty sat on a wall, and Trumpty Dumpty's going to have a great fall. And all the king's horses and all the king's men are going to try to put Trumpty together again, and he ain't coming together. They tried to heal Babylon, but she wouldn't heal. Trumpty Dumpty sat on the wall. Trumpty Dumpty had a great fall. They tried to heal Babylon, but she wouldn't heal. The oil, silver. Silver's recovering a little from the dip down at 46 it took. It's earlier this morning it was 47.96, which is practically 48. So it's very close to hitting 50. When it breaks through the 50, which is a big resistance point, the next big resistance point's $100. So it'll climb rather freely. Crude oil actually was down a little bit. It was in the $60 range. And the Brent was in, that's the Europe, was in the 64 and change price range. Okay. We got statements from Netanyahu's office like, in light of Hamas's response to Israel is preparing for the immediate implementation of the first phase of the Trump plan for the immediate release of all hostages. They're never going to do that. Trump is either making believe he believes it or he's way stupider than I ever thought. And I'm leaning towards way stupider than I ever thought. Just another S-bot moron. Like Bush, like Biden, like Obama, another moron like Reagan. A moron. You know, nothing but a moron. We will continue to work with full cooperation with the president, meaning Trump, and his team to end the war according to the principles set by Israel that align with President Trump's vision. So we're not leaving Gaza altogether and hoping Hamas does the right thing. It's not going anywhere. But it is showing us a falling out with America. And when it does fall apart, Trump is the type of jackass that'll blame it on Israel, where he's the moron. I'm getting more and more convinced that Trump's as dumb as a bag of hammers, okay? I think he's just a stuffed shirt idiot. That's what I think. His tariff plan is completely horrible. He's killing the country. The only reason I would go for this is saying he wants to kill the country and it's disguising it. That could be the case, but I don't think so because this idiot wants to build a dynasty for himself. He wants a coin minted after him. He wants a Nobel Prize. He wants this. He wants that. He's trying to set up generational wealth in the billions and billions. And be a Rockefeller or a Kennedy clan or something like that. So they did stop the bombing of Gaza already. There's a lot of rumors that Trump is going to strike Venezuela so soon. I'm not really convinced of that, guys. I think Trump could just be hanging around Venezuela, getting ready to keep striking their ships periodically, and that's all he's going to do. He probably could cause significant economic damage to the cartels by doing that. We're getting more aerial refueler tankers moving around from America. This is Iran. And we're getting bomber squadrons going over to Europe from America with these refueling tankers, aerial refuelers. And they had aerial refuelers active over Cape Cod yesterday, I think at night maybe, or yesterday. Possibly refueling the long-range bombers or fighters going over to Europe. So Trump is continuing to bring the hardware in for Iran, likely. He might just be trying to scare Iran. And when that doesn't work, he'll just fold and take the troops back to America because he's scared to death to fight a war without his demons. And there are people that are stopping him from having his demons. So he's afraid to do anything. So he promotes Israel to do things, and now he doesn't even want Israel to do something. What is he, taking stupid pills? He's believing Hamas all of a sudden? I don't think so. I think he's scared again. He might not want to see Israel strike Hamas because he doesn't have his demons to green light him and counsel him, and he's scared. That could really be what it is. You're not going to hear people talk like this on any other channel I know about. I wish you did. But unfortunately, what people call the church are people that won't teach you anything. Do they ever do bonding and loosing with you? I do that. Do they ever quote Matthew 16, verse 17? These signs shall follow those that believe in my name. They shall cast out devils. It says if you're a believer, you will cast out devils. What percent of the churches, all of them, cast out devils? 1%, perhaps an eighth of 1%? We do here all the time, but how many of them do? So if it's a sign of being a believer, and they don't do it, are they believers? You think about that. I'll take a 1-minute break. Think about that. Ask yourself why you're sitting in these places. What's wrong? Why are you doing that? Let me tell you something that these churchianity preachers in Israel or not in Israel are never going to tell you. Netanyahu has 3 open criminal cases for corruption, totaling 16 years in jail if he's convicted. Okay? He ducks going to court and testifying by saying he has to run the war. Whatever war he happens to be in. Now, there's no war in Lebanon, there's no war in Syria, no war with Iraq, no war with Iran. The only war we got is with Yemen. So the only way Netanyahu is going to stop the fighting in Gaza is if he has another war. It's very hard to fight a war with Yemen because they're so far away. And Trump may tell him he doesn't want a war with Yemen. Trump and Netanyahu are on a collision course. If Netanyahu stops the war in a bad way, because Trump wants them to. They're going to do a vote of no confidence on Netanyahu. He's going to be out of office. The Attorney General and the High Court are going to drop on him like a ton of bricks to go to court and finish his cases, which he's been stalling literally for probably 3 years. And he's going to probably get convicted on 2 of them, in my opinion, and get a few years in jail. Then they're going to start an independent investigation of what happened on October 7th, 2023. And that is not going to fare well for Netanyahu, believe me, nor his cronies. And if that happens, there's going to be a handful of them in prison. So Netanyahu doesn't mind stopping the war till Monday or Wednesday or Thursday, you know. But beyond that, he's going to wind up in court. And he can't do that. Because then he wind up getting convicted and then he can't be prime minister. Now, if they do a vote of no confidence on him, when they file a vote of no confidence, Netanyahu's position changes to caretaker prime minister, which means he's limited in power. He cannot initiate new legislation, for instance. The only thing he could work on legislatively is a budget. So they could also have a vote of no confidence, and the projections in the surveys, the polls, are Netanyahu will lose by a big margin. And they don't like doing a change in prime minister during war. But if there is a ceasefire with Gaza, then there's really no act of war, and they will change Netanyahu, and they could turn around the next day or the same day and say, does anybody here have a coalition of 61 votes? It would be the president that would ask the Knesset, the Congress. And it is thought that Ben-Gvir and Smotrich would have enough votes hooked up with some other parties. And because they've grown in strength a lot the last 8-9 months. And the left wing in Israel has deteriorated down. It's probably lost 70-80% of its constituents. The left wing is close to non-existent in Israel. Hamas and Hezbollah and Iran taught us a good lesson, and these people figured it out, that the only time it's going to stop is when they're throwing you in the oven alive. Then it's over, you know. So they got the idea. I don't think the Nazis threw the Jews in the oven alive, but I think the Muslims would. The Muslim terrorists would if they could. They put a baby in a microwave and cooked it and killed it in October 7th. There's video of it. They cut a fetus out of a woman when she was alive in front of her kids and husband. She died, the baby died. People in Israel are not stupid. They've learned their lesson. And if we get rid of Netanyahu, which would be getting rid of the curse on Israel, and Ben Gavir came in. We got another problem with them is that they may start a putsch or a purge against Messianics and Christians in Israel. They likely would. How far they would go, I don't know. See, the secular Jews, which is about half of Israel, don't like any religious Jews because they don't really believe in God, and they don't want people telling them how they can live their life. Okay? So they don't want any controls on what they could do on Sabbath. They don't want that they can't buy all kinds of non-kosher food around Israel. They don't want the rabbis being able to tell them who's a Jew and who could get married in Israel and who can't, who could get buried in a Jewish cemetery and who can't. They don't want to hear any of that. Okay? And they do things in Israel to irritate the Arabs. Years ago, the rabbis, years ago, there was a kibbutz like people like this, and they put tanks in to raise fish on their kibbutz, and one of the fish they liked raising was shrimp to irritate the rabbis. You know, so Ben Gavir and Smotrich are got to watch themselves with this. Now, the ultra-Orthodox parties, United Torah Judaism, and what's the name of it? I'll think of it. They got a total of about 15 votes together, and I don't think the right wing's going to have much to do with them because the right wing is going to be in favor of drafting them. Let me tell you how the right wing will behave if they get rid of Netanyahu. One of the first things they're going to do is they're going to give guns to Israel. Okay? They're going to get the people that are in the Hatsuki, like police reserves, people that are in security patrols in rural areas. We have one in my village. They got armed from the government. And they got a vehicle, maybe 2 vehicles, at least one. And it has the radios to connect to the police and the military to get help quick. Plus cell phones, their own cell phones. And they're assault weapons. And they also have pistols. They get permits if you want. It's a little laborious to get a permit, but you can get one. And they... The right wing will get the people that live near Gaza that got run over on October 7th. They'll give guns to them. They'll give them old assault weapons from the military, tens of thousands. That'll stop that. People that are living in the West Bank will get more weapons. They already got quite a bit. They'll get more. People that are living near Lebanon are going to get weapons. People that are living north of Gaza, east of Gaza, anywhere near Gaza are going to get weapons. And, anywhere near East Jerusalem and where you live near, but basically anybody that really wants to get a weapon in Israel is going to get a weapon. They'll give, in the high-risk areas, they'll probably hand them out military weapons, and they normally wouldn't give them a lot of ammo. I'm afraid they might only give them two 40-round clips, but with these people, they might give them 4 or 6 40-round clips, something like that. They're not going to give everybody 1,000. Like in America, the gun people, and I used to be one once upon a time, you'd have 5,000 rounds in your house easily. Some people have 10, 12,000 rounds. They don't go for that in Israel, not with civilians. When a military person gets a gun to take home when they travel to their house from the military base, they're usually going to get 2 large clips attached together, one in the gun, then you eject it, turn it around, shove the other end of the clip in, and you got another clip in. 80 rounds, which is pretty good for traveling around like that, but they might give them, 2 more or 4 more clips, something like that. They're not going to give them 400 rounds, I don't think. But that makes a big difference because if they try to swarm in, even if you just got 80 rounds, if you're going to go like an idiot, you'll have nothing. But if you're going to go boom, slow, deliberate, aimed fire, and you're going to hit them with rounds, they're going to come down. You're going to stop them from doing it. There would be no paragliders coming in. Paraglider, boom, boom, boom. I got them, Paragliders, when you see them moving across the sky, they're moving like this. They're not, like a jet or anything like that. They're going rather slow. Birds go faster, usually. So you can bring them down. And what are they, 50, 60 times the size of a bird? You can take them out. If you hit their motor, if you miss them and hit their motor and their motor stops, that's doom and gloom. That's not a good thing for them. Okay. They'll do that. That's going to stop a lot of problems. People that want to get a gun permit, it's going to rotate. They're going to say, if you're a Jew, you're going to get a gun permit. Are they going to want to have a psychiatric exam or psychological exam? No, they'll get rid of that. Are they going to want to have a criminal records check? I'm not sure, probably. Are they going to want to have a physical? I don't think so. Do you have to get a physical in America to buy a gun? You see what I'm saying? It might revert to you just take your identity card, which is near impossible to forge. These things are so sophisticated. They got raised images, they got holograms, they got all sorts of stuff. You could take your identity card and go to the gun store and just carry out a gun. I think it could revert to that. They might be able to do set up very easily a computerized criminal records check. Look, the police could check to see if you have a criminal record like that. Boom. So they just set up the gun stores, call in. How many gun stores do they have in Israel? 20, maybe 30. I mean, they don't have a lot. I don't know, maybe 40 or something. Not many. They want the people to take a 1-day course in learning how to shoot before they get the gun. They might continue with that. They might not. I don't know what they'll do, but they're going to open up the guns. Okay, are they going to keep the law with the knives for 5 years in jail for carrying a knife? I don't know, probably. Because that's the Arab weapon, they'll probably keep that. Would they change on the legalization of marijuana? Nah. Netanyahu's a jackass, and he doesn't want the marijuana really legalized. The right wing won't either. They don't have any use for it. The right wing are not ultra-Orthodox. They're Orthodox, okay? They will deal with Trump in what way? They will sit down with Trump and tell... Now, Ben-Gvir is already the security minister in charge of the police. And is he in charge of Shin Bet? I think so. And he's supposed to be getting his own militia inside Israel. Smotrich is in charge of he's the economics minister. So one of them would become the defense minister and run the wars, for sure. Okay? I don't know which one. It wouldn't matter. They both think in sync. And their position would be, if America wants to talk to us, by all means, we'll talk to them. If they want us to fly to America and talk to them, we will fly to America and talk to them. If they want us to tell them what we're doing, we will tell them what we're doing. But if they want to tell us what to do, we'll listen to them, but there's no way we're going to do everything they tell us. Only if it's good for us are we going to do it. See, that's not Netanyahu. That's the right wing. And it's expected that the right wing take power. So that will cause a rift between Israel and America, like big, right away, too. Because they're going to say, I'm sorry, this is our land in the Bible. We're moving into Gaza. It's nice that you want to start casinos there with gambling, but we don't have gambling casinos in Israel. That's Israel. And we're taking the land back. So yeah, Jews are going to live there, and we're shoving the Arabs out. If they don't go out, we'll put barbed wire on the tanks and shove them into the sea. That's what you're going to hear. Would that bring on the siege of Zechariah 12 very, very quickly? It would. Is that the way it has to play out? No, but it might. It might play out that way. I don't know. I don't know. See, the rabbis will tell them that the Messianics and the Christians are bringing a curse on Israel because they consider Jesus a God, and they consider him in heaven and the Son of God and rose from the dead and everything like that. And by praying to him, they're cursing Israel. So we got to get them out of Israel. That's what they'll tell the right wing, and the right wing government may go for it. To pull something off like that would take a lot of time. And they got a lot of problems with wars, and I'm not so sure that that would really ever happen. How would they respond to Elijah and Enoch? Well, a lot better than Netanyahu. Don't know how they would completely respond to it. But they will not take any nonsense from the other governments. They might invade Syria and grab the oil. They tell Turkey, drop dead. Why would they do that? Because they know that if Turkey gets into a war with Israel, our F-35s are going to make a shambles out of Turkey. Now, could Turkey hurt us? Yes, badly. But Turkey doesn't want themselves getting hurt either. If they start coming with their warships, our planes will destroy their warships. All you got to do is, with a destroyer, is hit it with probably 2 rockets. You don't even need anti-ship missiles, just the 2 3/4 inch rockets hit it, and you're going to start fires on the boat, or you might have to hit them with 4. But it's not going to take a lot till the boat catches fire. Having a warship with all the ammunition and fuel out at sea on fire is not a very comforting thing. They're not that hard to disable for a stealth aircraft. The stealth aircraft has to fire on them before they're in visual range, which with binoculars, visual range could be 5, 6, 7 miles. So it's got to be, I would say 5 miles visual would be about maximum, because the plane's not a passenger jet, it's a little plane. And they don't know where the heck in the sky it is, and the plane's moving fast, so you got to track it in. Then they got to get a lock on it, but by the time that all happens, boom, the rockets are fired. And then the plane's going to go climb or dive and get the heck out of there. So if he fires the rockets and then throws the afterburners on in 10, 15 seconds, he's way, way, way the heck out of there. So he's not going to want to lose warships. One jet could down 3 or 4 warships. But they're not that good. We could throw F-15s and F-16s at it, their warships. And we've got a Navy. We got submarines that are pretty stealthy. And, we use diesel submarines, which are very stealthy, small. They're made in Germany, top notch. So Israel has no need for nuclear submarines. We're not going to go fight 4,000 or 5,000 miles away from home. We don't need that. You could stay underwater with our diesel submarines quite a few days. World War II, if you had your full air tanks, I don't even think you were able to get 24 hours, maybe 24 hours. I think we get about 4 days with our air tanks, Now, with a nuclear submarine, they could stay 4 months underwater, but they got to pay attention to eating. The nuclear submarine has water desalination, so they could take showers, flush the toilet, and drink water, but they need food. And they only carry 3 months worth of food at a time. Now they can restock. That means they got to meet a boat and spend, 12 or 18 hours at sea transferring huge amounts of food to feed, I don't know, 125 people or something for 3 months. That's a lot of food, you know. So would Trump attack us? It doesn't. It says that the Israelis say let our blood be on the daughter of Babylon, and it says all the evil they do in your sight, which means in Israel. So they do some bad stuff to us. So it could be that what I'm telling you is going to be what happens. Netanyahu the Terrible leaves. Whether or not they put him in jail is not highly relevant to me. Just get him out of office. And then instead of having a stooge like Naftali Bennett come in, which is Netanyahu with a new paint job, basically, the right wing takes over, and then they tell Trump, we love you, and we're always going to listen to you, and if you want to get information sharing from us, we'll share with you. But we're only going to do what's good for Israel. That is a red alarm for Trump. That's a red line. Now, when Elijah works in Malachi 3, which the church never teaches you, let's go through Malachi 3 because the church never teaches you this. Why the church never teaches you this? Well, let's just keep that very simple. Because they don't want you to know it. How can I prove that? Because if they did, they would teach it. Do you think they don't know that Malachi 3 is there? They know. They know. All right, Malachi 3. And there's a few things in here that the church doesn't show you that you should be interested in, but some of you are going to reject it because you won't go against the church because the church preaches you trash, that you're going to wave bye-bye, leave your clothes behind, get a white robe, and go up to heaven for 7 years while everybody else suffers. And that's a left-behind rapture, and there is no such thing. All the believers that were given to Yeshua go up on the same day, which is the last day, which means there's no more days. John 6:39, John 6:40, John 6:44, John 6:54. 4 times Yeshua taught that, and the churches, by and large, just about every single one of them, reject what Yeshua taught. Okay, Malachi 3:1. Behold, I will send my Malak, that's messenger, which is Malak, Malachi in English is Malak. Okay, it's a play on words. And he shall prepare the way before me, and that would be Elijah, because John the Baptist had the spirit of Elijah, but wasn't Elijah. And they asked him if he was Elijah, and he said no. Okay? This next Elijah is Elijah. Okay? One of the sons of God who came down from heaven, the Elijah, and the Enoch. Those are your two witnesses. Okay. And Jehovah whom you seek, no, it says Adonai, I'm sorry, that's the glory of God of Israel. That's a softer word for Lord. Whom you seek shall suddenly come to his temple. So the temple precedes the glory of God of Israel, who's Michael. It precedes him, or how the heck could he go to his temple, suddenly come to his temple, unless his temple was there first. Even the Malak of the covenant, whom you delight in. Well, that's Elijah, because when it's Pesach, Passover, the observant Jews will set a place setting for Elijah at the Passover Seder. And they'll pour him a glass of wine, knife and fork, plates, napkin, and a lot of them have chairs with Elijah's name on it. And they'll even leave the door open, if it's safe, for Elijah to come in. Now, they don't ever see Elijah, and nobody drinks that wine except them, or they just throw it away. But they do that, and that is not biblical. Okay, they also believe, because Elijah in the cave with Jehovah said, why are you here? What are you doing here, Elijah? Well, I'm here because nobody is for you, they're all against you, and they want to kill me, I'm the only one, or something like that. And then the Lord said, no, I've got many that haven't bowed the knee to Baal. And they say, because Elijah said that, Jehovah was very mad at Elijah and punishes him, and Elijah has to attend the circumcision of all the Jewish boys. See, now that's the Satan-bought rabbis hating Elijah, because they know he's a very large enemy of theirs, and building up a mockery towards Elijah. Okay, it's not true, of course. Okay, now it says, even the messenger of the covenant whom you delight in. And the messenger of the covenant is, the word for covenant is brit, and he's going to teach the Israelites the New Testament, the new brit, the new. That's what he's going to teach them. That's why he's referred to as the messenger of the covenant, whom you delight in. Behold, he shall come. I would read that more like Charleston Heston, the Moses that moved on to be the chairman of the National Rifle Association. He said, let my people go. It's like that. He shall come. Okay? I would say it's that way, declarative, He shall come, saith Jehovah of armies. But who may abide the day of his coming? And who shall stand when he appeareth? For he is like a refiner's fire, and like a fuller's soap, and he shall sit as a refiner and purifier of silver, and he shall purify the sons of Levi, the Levites, and purge them as gold and silver, that they may offer unto Jehovah an offering in righteousness. Then shall the offering of Judah and Jerusalem, now that's the land that we have now, Judah and Jerusalem. We don't have Israel, it's too small what we have. Okay, be pleasant unto Jehovah, as in the days of old, as in the former years, pleasant, like the acceptable year or the pleasant year. It's, I believe, the same word. Um, Wait, let me check this. Yeah, it could be pleasant, agreeable. Okay, so Elijah teaches the Levites to make the offerings acceptable unto the Lord, and that brings the blessings of the law on Israel. Now, Elijah sitting there and purifying the Levites would probably mean there's a temple and an altar. And I don't believe he's going to be sitting there teaching the Levites while the missiles and the drones come in. So there likely could be some junky peace plan for this during the years, or during the days and the weeks this is going on. I don't think it'll be years. Okay? So I could be wrong, I don't think it is. Okay? So that is, let's keep going. And I will come near to you to judgment, and I will be a swift witness against the sorcerers, and against the adulterers, and against the false swearers, and against those that oppress the hireling in his wages, the widow, the fatherless, and that turn aside the stranger from his right, and fear not me, saith Jehovah of hosts. Now, when you read Zechariah 13, verse 8 and 9, 2/3 of Israel get cut off. I should read it to you so you understand how it fits in right here. Zechariah 13, 8 and 9. A lot of you know this already, but it's important to keep teaching it to others so people get the truth. Now, everything I'm doing is right out of the Bible, so you're going to have a lot of trouble kicking against it. Zechariah 13:8. And it shall come to pass that in all the land, called Haaretz, land of Israel, saith Jehovah, 2 parts therein shall be cut off and die. So the parts is 2/3, they're dead. But the third shall be left therein. And I will bring the third part through the fire, and will refine them as silver is refined, and will try them as gold is tried. Sounds just like Malachi 3, doesn't it? Because it is. They shall call on my name, and I will hear them. I will say, it is my people, and they shall say, Jehovah is my Elohim. Okay? Go back into Malachi 3. I don't know what verse I'm at, maybe 6. For I am Jehovah, I change not, therefore you sons of Yaakov are not consumed. So he doesn't change. He's the same yesterday, today, and forever. So is Yeshua. And you will be too when you get to heaven, I suppose. Even from the days of your fathers, you are gone away from mine ordinances, that's the law, and have not kept them. Return unto me, and I will return unto you, saith Jehovah of hosts. So Elijah teaches them to return to Jehovah, and then he returns to them by applying the blessings of the law onto Israel. And that will apply to Israel wherever they are in the world, I believe. But it's in Israel where he accepts you, so you got to come to Israel. But that's your next Exodus, the next great Exodus. Okay. But you said, wherein shall we return? Will a man rob God, and you have robbed me? But you in tithes, you have robbed me in tithes and offerings. You are cursed with a curse, for you have robbed me, even this whole nation. See, so they're cursed because they're not doing the offerings and the tithes. Bring you all the tithes into the storehouse, that there may be meat in my house, and prove me now herewith, saith Jehovah. See, the evil ones, the ones that aren't right, they don't give offerings and tithes because they don't fear God, they don't believe God, and they don't think there's any reason to do it. Okay. Of hosts, and I will not open you the windows of heaven and pour you out a blessing, that there shall not be room enough to receive it. So Elijah, convinces the Levites of this, of course. And I will rebuke the devourer. Then that's the devil. That's not the devil. That's locusts and palmer worm, cankerworm, the crop-eating bugs, pestilence. And I will rebuke the devourer for your sakes, and he shall not destroy the fruits of your ground, neither shall your vine cast her fruit before the time in the field, saith Jehovah of hosts. So it's not just the destroyer, but it's also casting the fruit before the time, and it's no good. So does this happen to us? Are we expecting this pestilence? And I don't know. This is the only mention of it, but I don't know. And all nations shall call you blessed. See, it doesn't sound like it. For you shall be a delightsome land, saith Jehovah of hosts. I know we're in a drought now, a bad drought, so that could cause the casting before the time, but I'm not hearing anything about us having pestilence bugs in any quantity in Israel. So that's what I know now. That could change, of course, overnight. So he says, and all nations shall call you blessed, for you shall be a delightsome land, saith Jehovah. So of course there would be no pestilence for that to happen. Your words have been stout against me, saith Jehovah, yet you say, what have we spoken so much against thee? You have said, it is vain to serve God, and what profit is it that we have kept his ordinance, that's the law, and that we have walked mournfully before Jehovah of hosts. Well, that you could see in Zechariah 12, starting in verse 10 and 11 and 12 and 13. And now we call the proud happy, yea, they that work wickedness are set up, yea, they that tempt God are even delivered. They're the walking dead is what they are. They just don't know it. Then they that feared that feared Jehovah spake often one to another, and Jehovah hearkened and heard it, and a book of remembrance was written before him for them that feared Jehovah and that thought upon his name. Well, we do that, and the book of remembrance is called the book of life. And that's a very nice, good thing when your name's in there. And they shall be mine, saith Jehovah of hosts, in that day. Now, that day goes to Zechariah 12, the day of redemption, when I make up my jewels and will spare them as a man spareth his only son that serveth him. Well, that's your parable of the kid that spent the inheritance and ran away and going with whores and getting drunk and wound up going broke outside of Israel, working for some guy feeding his pigs. I think it was carob, and he wasn't even allowed to eat it. And he said, "Oh, let me go back to my father, the workman there, live better than I do, and I'll ask him to just let me be a laborer, and I'll have a place to live and food to eat." And he goes there, and before he even gets to the house, the father has the servants bring him a ring and a robe and shoes and kisses him, and so glad he's back serving the father. You see, that's Israel. Really the 10 tribes. But, they came back to the father. But he doesn't, when they come back, he doesn't kick them around and, stupid kid, boom, 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 get in the workhouse, shovel the manure from the bulls. Or, he doesn't do that. He says, kill the fatted calf, let's have a party, because my son has returned. That's what it'll be like with the days of the coming in on the great Exodus. It'd be like a party. You're going to have, instead of a garment for mourning, you're going to have a beautiful garment. Instead of tears and crying, you're going to be rejoicing. We'll cover the rejoicing and all that in a moment. Then shall you return, and that's the power. What is it? That's the parable of the the wayward son. No, it's another word. The bad son, anyway. Who becomes right. Discern between the right. Where look at it. The kid left Israel and he's out in the nations, in the heathen nations, and comes back. Well, that's the 10 tribes. Between the righteous and the wicked, between him that serveth God and him that serveth him not. It says you return and discern. Okay? Now, we're going to discuss a little bit about how that happens by going into Malachi 4, verse 1. For behold, the day cometh, that day of Zechariah 12, that which is Jacob's trouble. Remember Jacob's trouble in Jeremiah 30, around verse 6 or verse 8. It says, great is Jacob's trouble, but he shall be saved out of it. That's not Ezekiel 38:39, where not that many people are saved out of it. That's the falling away. Before you have the falling away, they got to fall in to fall away. To fall out, they got to fall in first. So it's not for now. It's about a 70-year spread. But what you're talking about here, if behold, the day cometh that shall burn as an oven, and all the proud, yea, and all that do wickedly shall be stubble, and the day that cometh shall burn them up, saith Jehovah of hosts, that it shall leave them neither root nor branch. That's what the two witnesses do. They burn them up on the right hand and the left. But we're going to deal with the burning up here a little differently. I think it's Jehovah maybe that burns them up, or maybe the two witnesses. Doesn't specify. It says Jehovah shall be a swift witness, but in the death penalty there's two witnesses, so Jehovah's one, and possibly Elijah and Enoch are the other witnesses. Doesn't say two or more, so there would be three of them as witnesses. But unto you that fear my name shall the sun, now that word in Hebrew is Shemesh, it means the sun, like the sun up in the sky, the sun and the moon. Right, okay, the sun of righteousness, that's a play on words. It's Yeshua. Arise with healing in his wings. It doesn't say wings. The Hebrew word is kanaf, it's extremities. It's hard to understand, but they wore robes back in the days of Yeshua, and we'll be dressing like that again. And the robes had borders. And on all the borders of the extremities, it had the tzitzit with the blue thread, the tassels, they call it in the King James. So they had it on the cuff here. They had it on the, if they wrapped it around like that over here, and they had it on the bottom. They didn't have just four of them. And the rabbis are like the pastors. They don't do anything right. So they had the tassels. Okay, so it says, unto them that fear my name shall the Son of Righteousness, which is Yeshua, arise with healing in his extremities. That's it. The tassels, the woman with the issue of blood for 12 years, she touched his tassels and got healed. Yeshua said, oh, power came out of me. The woman got scared. And he said, no, I'm okay with this. Don't worry, I'm glad you got healed. Words to that effect. Shall the Son of Righteousness arise with healing in his wings, in his extremities, and you shall go forth and grow up as calves. It doesn't say that. It says you shall frolic about like calves of the stall. So you're going to be real happy. You're going to be like young again. I don't know, what would I guess, 21, 23, something like that. You're not going to be 30. You wouldn't be a calf if you were 30. And if you were going to be 16 or 18 physically, maybe. But I don't know. We'll have to find out. It says you will run and not get tired. Okay. My people's days shall be like that of a tree. And trees live a few thousand years, but they die. This is the everlasting life in Zechariah 12. And John 6:40. You will still be able to die, but the word is olam. Your life goes off on into an indefinite future. Something like before the flood, when they lived many centuries, like 900 years or something like that. But way before then, you'll get into New Jerusalem. And in New Jerusalem, there is no death. It says that in Revelation. And you shall tread down the wicked, for they shall be ashes under the soles of your feet in the day, that's the day, that I shall do this, saith Jehovah of hosts. So they get burned up on the same day as the enemies get burned up. And then the new heaven and the new earth would come. And they don't ever get to see that, let alone experience it. So their ashes under your feet. Now under the feet is the people in Israel, so they're burned up in Israel. The two witnesses in Zechariah 12:6 burned them up on the right hand and the left, so they're outside of Israel, I would believe. They never actually invade Israel, so they get burned up in their own land, so to speak. It's really our land, but that's where they get burned up. So that should give you a better perspective of it. Now we go on in verse 4. Remember you the law of Moses my servant, which I commanded unto him in Horeb for all Israel, with the statutes and the judgments. Well, if you're a believer in Yeshua, you're in Israel. It says all Israel shall be saved. It never says all churches shall be saved. So that's the law, the same law that the churches are teaching has been done away with. Did Yeshua ever say that? No. In Matthew 5:17 or 12, I forget, it says, think not that I came to destroy the law of the prophet or the prophets, but I came to fulfill. But keep reading. For as long as there's a heaven and an earth, not one jot or tittle shall be done away with from the law. So there still is a heaven and an earth, and it's not done away with. Yet they teach it is. But you want to go sit there, it's a very, very bad idea for your eternity. I wouldn't sit there, but if you do, remember, I told you so. If you wind up in the lake of fire, I told you so. Remember you the law of Moses, my servant, which commanded unto him in Horeb for all Israel, and you are all Israel if you're a believer in Yeshua. The king of Israel, the high priest, after the order of Melchizedek, he calls you his brethren, and then you're going to turn around and say you're not in Israel. You're making a mockery of Yeshua. The devil's tricking you. With the statutes and judgments, behold, I will send you Eliah or Elijah or Eliyahu, the prophet. So you'd say Eliyahu HaNavi, Elijah the prophet. And before the great and dreadful day of the Lord. That's before the end of Gog and Magog. But it doesn't say how much before, but it's 70 years. I'll explain it to you in a minute. And he shall turn the heart of the fathers to the children, and the heart of the children to the fathers, lest I come and smite the earth with a curse. Well, he's really talking about the dry bones coming back to Israel. I suspect that's what he's talking about. But, okay, so what I need to explain to you is the 270s in Daniel 9:24, which the churches never teach. Now, you can easily challenge me on this. It's not hard. Okay. What it says in English is 70 weeks are determined upon thy people. All right. It doesn't never say 70 weeks in any of the Hebrew translations. They're not translations. The actual text was written in Hebrew. So the Hebrew Bibles never say that. They always say 70. In Hebrew, the word is shavim. It means 70. Okay? So if you were 75 years old, you would say, Ani yesh shavim v'hamei shanim. I have 75 years. But 70 means 70. It does not mean weeks. Nowhere in Hebrew. Any of these crooked preachers, and I call them crooked people, they're thieves, any of them that teach you and run around showing you what the Hebrew and the Greek words means, they should know what this means too, that it says 270s. They're aware of it. They just won't teach it to you. Any of the Messianic Jews that are in the churchianity system that live here know this, because they look at it and it says shavim. They know it says 70. There's nothing to talk about. Okay, it's an obvious one. It's like looking at a red car and saying, gee, this is a red car, not a white or a blue. You know the difference clear as a day. So what are the 270s? The first 70 could be the Babylonian captivity, which Daniel was a part of, so it lends itself to that being the first 70. It could also be the time, more likely, the time of, from beginning at Yeshua's birth to the destruction of the temple. No, let's break it down. When Yeshua was born, Herod was killing all the male children and stuff like that. He was going nuts because the demons must have told him. And, you know, the wise men, the chuchim, or chuchim, it's Yiddish and Hebrew, it's about the same word, I think. The wise men came, they saw the star, and they brought the frankincense and the gold and all that, the gifts, right? Okay. So this was a big event that all Israel knew about this, and all the male children were getting killed. It was a big deal. And then Yeshua's parents, you know, Miriam, who they call Mary, it's Miriam, split and took him with a husband to Egypt until Herod got killed, and then they got a word to bring him back to Israel. Okay. So when he was born, that's when it started. Now let's take a look at BC and AD, stuff like that. BC stands for before Christ, right? Okay. Could Yeshua have been born in the year 4 or 5 or 3 before Christ? Well, what kind of cockamamie nonsense are they trying to sell us now? That Yeshua was born before Yeshua was born. Okay, so let's see through their lies, okay? Now, what about AD? Well, that means after death. So now Yeshua was born in the year 3 AD. So he was born 3 years after he died. Gee, that's more lies. So let's say Yeshua was born in the year 0. Okay. Now, they don't have, in the Gregorian calendar system, they don't have an AD after death year 0. They start with 1. So someplace along the line they lost a year. Pretty stupid system. Well, he's a pope, so he's pretty stupid, right? All right, Pope Gregory. So let's just say 0 was the beginning. And Yeshua was born on 0. That's when it would start. And when was the temple destroyed? 70 AD. So you got a 70-year period there. Could be that. I said 70 AD, but you say the year 70. It may not have been AD. It may have been using biblical calendar years. I don't remember. So it's hard to say. So it could be that's when it happened. So that was this 70-year trial. So why am I saying this is more likely? Because in Babylon, they weren't really given a 70-year trial. They were given a 70-year punishment, banished out of Israel. But he said, if you go to Babylon, you'll be fine, you'll be comfortable, you could raise children there, don't worry, everything will be okay. And that's how it was. And then they came back to Israel. But with the 70-year testing period of the Jews, it started when Yeshua was born, and it ended when Jerusalem was, burned up and finished off, and the temple was destroyed, and the Jews got killed, and they went into captivity, and all that. And of course, the Lord told the believers, the Jewish believers, to get out of Jerusalem when you see the armies coming, and they did. A lot of them left Jerusalem earlier, even. So, that could be the 70. And the second 70 is another testing period. So when does that start? Again, it's going to start with Yeshua. Okay? When? When he appears. What am I talking about? Matthew 24, verse 30. We'll start there. We'll go through the scriptures for the appearing. I didn't know I was doing this today, but it's what I'm doing. Matthew 24:30. And then shall appear, not return to earth, with New Jerusalem and many angels on their white horses. No, he shall appear, the sign, the miraculous appearing. It's him appearing, not some neon sign. They're confusing you with that. Of the Son of Man in heaven. And then shall all the tribes of the earth mourn, and they shall see the Son of Man coming in clouds of heaven with power and great glory. Well, this is the end of Zechariah. Starting in verse 10, it shows you the appearing. I'll show you that real quick right now. Zechariah 12:10. And I will pour upon the house of David and upon the inhabitants of Jerusalem the spirit of grace and of supplication. So he's pouring his spirit out on the Israelites. These are actually the Judahites in the land, and that means they're believers when this happens, right? He pours his spirit out on them. It may be that the house of David doesn't have to be in the land for this to happen, but he pours it out on them, and then it says, and they shall look upon me whom they have pierced. Boom, that's Yeshua. And they shall mourn for him as one mourneth for his only son, and shall be in bitterness for him as one that is in bitterness for his firstborn. In that day shall there be a great mourning in Jerusalem as some. Okay, so just to go a little bit quicker with this, it says, and the land shall, in verse 12, the land shall mourn every family apart. Okay, that never happened when they killed Yeshua, a great mourning and all that. No, this is for our day now. Okay, so when he appears, they're going to mourn. They're going to rip their clothes, they'll throw dust on their head, they'll wear shmatas, because they've, shmatas is rags, sorry, it's a Yiddish word, because they will be mad at themselves, or upset with themselves for what they did. They, call the Messiah a bastard because they say he doesn't have a father, and that meant his mother was, having sex out of wedlock, and, he was not a prophet, he was not the Son of God, he never rose from the dead to go to heaven and all this stuff. Now they realize they were wrong. See, Yeshua says he appears with power at the right hand, with power and great glory. He, in Psalm 110:1, it says, the Lord said to my Lord, sit thou at my right hand until I make your enemies your footstool. Well, his enemies are still not yet his footstool when he appears, so he's still at the right hand of God the Father. So God the Father appears also with him, and Yeshua is on the right hand. Remember, it says in Malachi, we read, I shall be a swift witness. A witness is, he's here. Okay. All right. So when we get into these scriptures, you have to read a few of them together. You read 1 John 3:2. Beloved, now are we the sons of God, and it doth not yet appear what we shall be, but we know that when he shall appear, not return to earth, appear, we shall be like him. So we're changed. For we shall see him as he is. Then we go to John 6, verse 40. See, they never teach you this. And I'm giving you the scriptures. They don't teach this is going to happen ever. They just don't want you to know about it. And this is the will of him that sent me, that every one which seeth the Son and believeth on him may have everlasting life, and I will raise him up at the last day. So you get the everlasting life, which is not immortality, but you live a long, long time, and you're like a young person again, but you have greater strength. You're going to run and not get tired. You probably could bench press, I don't know, like Samson or something. You could be like Samson's. Everybody could be like a Samson. I would expect it. The Goyim, the heathen, are sure going to be sorry, but they deserve it. Now we also need to read Revelation 1:7 to give us a better look at this. Revelation 1, verse 7. Behold, he cometh with clouds, and every eye shall see him. But only the believers are going to get everlasting life. And they which pierced him, and all kindreds of the earth, it's really saying, Mishpucha, saying all the tribes of the land of Israel. They're twisting it on purpose there. Tribes of the land of Israel shall wail, that's the mourning. That's how they mourn. Because of him, even so, amen. This is right out of there, Zechariah 12:10. It's like the same thing, just about. They don't teach it. And that was the great hope of the apostles, to have this everlasting life. Hey, shut up out there! Hey, don't get the last bark in on me. Hey, I get the last bark. This dog got a crazy habit. I sometimes eat something when I'm in my room with the iPad in the bed. Like I'll eat something that comes in a little package or something, right? Like my wife gave me a little small bag of M&M peanut the other day, yesterday I think, or something, the day before. Little thing, it had maybe 15 of them in there or something, 20 maybe. So I ate them, and then I took the bag and I threw it towards my garbage pail in the room, but it didn't make it all the way to the garbage pail. It fell down before it got to the garbage pail, and I wasn't aware of it. It was just kind of the same color as the floor, kind of a whitish. So the dog came and picked it up and took it into her kennel and coveted it as some sort of a prize. I don't know why she does that. But it's not a good thing, because the other dog can stroll by and see it in the open kennel and go say, oh, I'll steal this from her. And then she'll take it, and then we could have a war on our hands. So it's not a good thing. I got to be more careful with that and stop her from doing that. So I saw her coming into the room today looking to go shopping on the floor, and I told her not to. She'll stop. She's quite an obedient dog. She feels very bad if you get on her. She doesn't like it at all. She wants everybody to love her. And she's it's the prodigal son, that's right. That's not a word. When you live here in Israel, you could go 25, 50 years and never use the word prodigal. So when you stay here long enough, a number of years, you start dropping vocabulary words because you haven't used them so long. But I've used that word prodigal, I just don't use it often. So the mommy dog is terribly convinced that she's the best dog in the whole world, and you have to be too, or she'll convince you that she is. Somebody is saying they go back to Poland. You're talking about the Jews? I don't know what you're trying to tell us. No, we don't go anywhere. They come to Israel. We never leave the land. We don't leave the land anymore. There's no future going out of Israel. It's those days are all over. 1948, it was all over. I don't know what's going to happen with the next flotilla with 9 ships. Netanyahu, it came out that Netanyahu did tell a submarine to launch drones that dropped incendiary devices on some of their boats. Netanyahu did try to do that. It was a dumb idea. Netanyahu's a dumbbell. He's not that smart. Neither is Trump. All the Satan bots are idiots. I keep telling you this over and over. They're all idiots. They don't know how to do anything. All they know how to do is call on the unclean spirits, and they're completely dependent on the unclean spirits. And that's what the unclean spirits want, so they could run everything. They don't want any free thinkers. They want people totally dependent on them. And that means they're idiots. And that's who the world is run by, idiots. That's the way they do it. So, I don't see any questions, so I'll do some prayer for us. B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach, my Heavenly Father Yehovah, I pray for all the true believers in this group that follow me on Twitter and on YouTube and on Telegram, that are true believers walking in the true gospel. I pray that we all have your peace, safety, protection, joy, calm, rest, your shalom, peace, the gifts of the Spirit. I pray that you remove all the works of the people that serve the unclean spirits and the works of the unclean spirits directly from us and our lives and our household, that we don't have to put up with their garbage and suffer at their hand anymore. The kingdom is being wrenched away from them. And we pray that there's no more having to put up with this stupid, idiot persecutions of us because they hate you, my Heavenly Father, and thus they hate us. And I pray you would lift all those things off of us, and they never return. And I pray that we have adequate finances. They could no longer impede or hinder or delay or postpone or diminish the finances coming to us. And I pray that we would have lots of relaxation, joy, peace, calm, and rest. And I pray that those that serve the unclean spirits don't have that. And I pray that there be no unclean spirits inside anybody that works for any government in Israel or America, that and Iran, and the unclean spirits have to immediately depart from any such person, never return unto them again. And for 1 year continuously, no unclean spirit will go in these people, or appear to them, or guide them, or lead them, or direct them, or help them, or give them advice, or assist them. For 1 year continuously, beginning now. And I pray for the peace of Jerusalem, and I pray for better videos with more teaching and more insights. And I submit this prayer to you, my Heavenly Father, which is also kind of a binding. B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach, and you all true believers can agree with me on this, even if it's a video, not a live stream. And I think you guys have been experiencing better peace and joy and calm and rest, and not having the same difficulties with these idiots. Remember, the dumbest true believer with the true gospel is way smarter than the smartest Satan bot. Because no true believer is walking around in a delusional nightmare like the Satan bots are. They're walking around in a dream. And it's going to be shattered. And a lot of Satan bots are probably going to hate the devil and convert over if they make it in time. All right, guys, I send my shalom, my Shabbat shalom to all those who love Yeshua HaMashiach. And because we're in war mode now, I'll maybe popping up YouTube videos at unusual times. I will post them on Telegram and Twitter. But I'll only do that if there's some big events. But I will keep updating the Telegram, several times a day. So you'll get it. But if something big happens, I'll put it on Twitter, I'll put it on Telegram, and I'll put it on YouTube. Okay, guys, so I'm out. And I hope you got something out of that. And I'm out. Thanks.